Bursts of greatness, but still not the complete package? Is it the knee, the plan, or should we just RELAX? A win is a win, is it not? And the Lions would gladly take one as they look to protect their pride next on your Packers Fan Podcast.
Hey Packers fans, this is your unofficial Packers Fan Podcast, and these are the podcasters you're looking for. One of these guys, even though he's a huge fan of the Packers, he doesn't like bratwursts and wonders if that's wrong. And the other guy bangs the drum all day and thinks, touchdown. And now it's time to go, Pack, go! With your hosts, Wayne Henderson and Troy Heinritz.
Thanks again for joining us. For the 163rd time, I'm at Wayne Henderson, and this is the 3-time Podcast Award finalist podcast by and for fans of your 13-time NFL champion Green Bay Packers, recorded October 2nd, 2018.
And we lost to the fantasy footballers once again in that 3-year span, but they have a really good show. So check them out at fantasyfootballers.com. I'm at Troy Heinritz, who lets Wayne plan this show. And then I kind of tell him which parts I like and which parts I don't after the fact.
Okay.
We're going to have some interesting times tonight. This week we look back on Buffalo in our first shutout since the 9-0 win versus the Jets in 2010. I guess the offense was pretty pathetic that day too.
Yep.
Sorry. I'm just going to keep going. Encouraging injury updates and fun with flags. Yes, Sheldon Cooper may actually check into the podcast. And latest NFC North roundup as well.
And we're going to preview the Packers at Lions game, including Troy's keys to victory. We'll have the results from this week's Twitter and Facebook poll. No worms were harmed this week. And as always, your great feedback coming in at 920-3PACK-GO and from email.
Links or articles we reference in this episode can be found on our website at packersfanpodcast.com/163. I got to know what's up with the worms.
I didn't open any can of worms this time.
Can of worms. I'm thinking like internet worms. Facebook was hacked this week.
Earworms? No, just
got it. Can of worms.
The poll results coming up later. Not as surprising or shocking as last week. Just saying.
What was surprising or shocking was that this was the second coldest game ever at Lambeau Field in the last 60 years. 49 degrees at kickoff.
Ever?
That's second coldest in the last 60 years.
Just in September, right?
Just in September.
Because I was at one in November that was much colder.
In September, and the coldest September game in the last 60 years was actually against the Washington Redskins on September 24th, where it was 46 degrees. And just because it's cold outside in September does not mean global warming is not a thing. This is actually because of global warming, because the weather patterns are all messed up.
I can't believe how quickly it turned to autumn in your part of the country.
It goes quick. Leaves are changing colors already.
Yeah, when I was watching the game and I see all these people wearing jackets and beanies, and definitely not here. Not just yet.
And I just think 2 weeks ago, I was sitting in the stands, literally boiling my brains out with no ice and no water.
This is exactly what I told my wife when we were watching the game. Just 2 weeks ago, Troy was there and roasting. You know, another thing that was great to see was the fact that the Packers, at least to a degree, had more of a commitment to the run game.
Yes, but we should be playing Aaron Jones more. I mean, Jones got 11 carries only, despite gaining 65 yards on the ground and 17 on a single reception. Now, in 18 touches since coming back from a 2-game suspension, Jones has 5 gains of 10 or more yards and 3 gains of 17 or more yards.
Nice.
And in his 2 games, Jones has 107 rushing yards total on 17 carries. That's 6.3 yards every time Aaron Rodgers hands him the football. What's your third down conversion rate? Oh, you can't measure it because you never get to third down.
Yeah. We need to see Jones a lot more than we have. But it was encouraging that we did get to see him and the other running backs as much as we did. But I think this should send a clear signal to whoever's calling the plays that run the ball and it'll yield great things.
And I just want to call out to Jones in the fourth quarter at about the 8:25 mark to go. He picked up a blitz. Like it was coming out of the would have been Rodgers' right side. The blitz is coming, and man, he just went low at the knees and cut that guy down. It was awesome.
There was so much to like from this game, except for some of the stuff on offense. But Jones, we are counting on you.
We'll get there.
Oh, I know. We're not going to go to the bad stuff yet because we're still doing highlights like the defense. Where'd they come from?
No doubt. Kyler Fackrell stepping it up this week. 3 sacks.
Yeah, boy.
Man, I thought hat tricks only existed in hockey.
Not when Fackrell's involved.
Love it. It's great that he's stepping up, especially with the injury we had there on the defensive line. And the first shutout posted by the Packers at Lambeau Field. That's right, since the 26-0 victory over Detroit on October 18th, 2009.
Good times. Good times.
The Packers also allowed just 145 yards of total offense, the fewest given up by Green Bay since December 21, 2014, where they gave up 109 yards at Tampa Bay. And you remember what happened in 2014, Wayne?
Victories all around.
We almost went to the Super Bowl, except for one offside recovery catch.
Yes. That was the year when we played the Cardinals in the playoffs, right? Or was that the year before?
I don't remember. I just remember the Seattle game.
When you tore your jersey like they do in the Bible.
I tore my jersey. Yeah. Brutal.
I mean, this is the same Bills team that demolished the Vikings.
It is the same Bills team that demolished the Vikings. And I think the combination of the Vikings film that we had plus the Bills film that we got from that game last week, put those two together, and you get a pretty good game plan, or at least a defensive one.
We'll take it. And good to see HaHa Clinton-Dix making some moves as well. Nice interception.
That's his third interception in a third straight game. So that is a career-long streak for him, further extending that out. So let's keep that train going. That's a lot of fun. And that was a big hit, too. I don't know how that guy got up and walked away from that. It was like collision of gladiators.
Yeah.
That's football.
That guy looked like he was going to be hurt a lot worse than he was. So thankful that there weren't as many bad injuries as could have been.
And I love that the special teams was also getting into the action this week. Really helped out with field position. I think field position was the name of the game. We were able to pin them back pretty far, and that was what allowed us to be able to keep them at that 0-point score for a majority of the game.
And Clay Matthews made a sack, and there was no flag.
No flags!
That's what we're talking about. For the first time this season, Clay Matthews did not get called for roughing the passer. Hallelujah.
There was talk around the league, too, I guess, that the roughing the passer call was almost non-existent this weekend. So I wonder if the refs were told, hey, instead of that clause that's in the rule that says if you have to guess or question if it should be roughing the passer, call it roughing the passer, maybe they flipped the coin on that a little bit.
I did notice throughout a lot of games, some of the players that were making sacks were really trying hard to make the move where they would roll off them and not put their full body weight on. So it can be done.
And as much grief as we gave NFL operations about the whole rule and the stupidity of it and all that, I mean, the video they did send out at least gave clarity to the league and to the fans what was and what was not going to be tolerated. So I appreciate the effort. Still think it's garbage, but, it is what it is.
So they get an E for effort, so yay.
That's why the E is not on the normal grading scale. It just goes D to F, right?
Yeah, and in some places they get rid of the D and it's just A, B, C, or F. It's whatever.
I mean, all around great stuff. I wish we were talking more about the defense instead of some other stuff that happened this week. But all in all, the defense looked pretty decent. I'm not going to say anything about the defense and the shutout and all this other stuff until I see them actually hold the Rams to less than 20 points.
In person,
yes, in person. Then we'll talk about how good our defense is this year.
Oh, we're going to be talking like there's no tomorrow if it comes out like that. There were some lowlights in the game, though.
You know what? The part of the game that I hate the most, Wayne? We've talked about this in the past.
Commercials.
Well, commercials suck. That's why there's the condensed version later on NFL Game Pass.
True.
Or the full game. You can watch the full game, too, without commercials with NFL Game Pass. It's awesome. But I really hate when TV announcers put up stats for the sake of putting up stats, like Aaron Rodgers and how many no interceptions he's had. And then, of course, what happens in this? Oh, you get an interception. Thanks, CBS. Yeah. Thanks.
If we didn't know better, we would think the game was on like a 2.5 minute delay just so that they could throw up these stats and make us bonk our heads against the TV screen. Yeah, those are crazy. And a lot of the stats They just kind of make up this stuff, and I'm reading. How's that a stat? I mean, this one, yes, but some of the things they throw up on the screen, it's just throw up.
What was the other one? The number of September home games that the Packers have won were 12-0-1 at home at Lambeau.
I don't know. Just there's some wacky stuff, like when the temperature's between 42 degrees and 61 degrees Fahrenheit, and it's in a September after the full moon, when the team is playing on natural grass outdoors in the afternoon game, this usually happens.
I am fully impressed that you came up with that off the top of your head.
That's how many of these terrible stats I've seen.
Good Lord. Well, there were some other stats for the offense that people weren't too happy about this week, and I went back and kind of watched the coaches' cams, and there were a lot of passing plays that I have to say were just off target. I mean, I thought for a second maybe it's a route running thing or a timing thing, but there were two in the first quarter where clearly Aaron was way off the mark on those passes. And then, of course, the interception that was thrown that bounced off the one guy's hand before it got to Graham. Now, Graham probably could have let it go, but he's already jumping to catch the ball, and so he has to do something while he's in the air because the ball's going to be sailing over his head. But that interception, I think Aaron threw it low. I mean, if you look at the release pattern of his throws normally, he's a lot higher, and that one was more of like a bullet, like a straight line, and that's what allowed that one to get tipped. So those three passes, I would say, I would put on Aaron's shoulders. But then you have Lance Kendricks in the second quarter. It looked like he had a stutter step a little bit. I don't know if you saw it. He's on the right-hand side, and then he's got a tight end drag to the left. And as he's dragging over, just before the ball gets there, he does like this stutter step. So I don't know if that was Lance Kendricks tripping on something or just getting the timing was off a little bit, or if he had to adjust back to the ball, because it looked like where his hands were, that he was actually adjusting back to the ball rather than being led in the direction he was currently running. So that one could have been on Aaron as well. But then Allison did have 3 drops that were literally right in his hands. Now, I know he's been doing some amazing things this year, but you got to catch those balls. Those are the ones that you have to reel in, especially when it's a third down conversion, because that kills drives. And then Graham had one in the third also where he caught the ball and turned to run. And you know what happens when you turn to run? Mm-hmm. You forget that you have to actually catch the football first. So, yeah, 4 were probably on Aaron, 4 were probably on the offense. So just some stuff to clean up there. So, yeah, did the offense look a little bit sluggish this week for 400 yards and only 22 points? Yeah, I could think so.
Oh, absolutely. And I totally agree. A lot of the plays definitely looked like they were Aaron's fault, no matter what anybody says, whereas many others were the wide receiver's fault. If those mistakes would have been cleared up and not happened, I think we would have won the game like 48-0 because we had so many opportunities that we just shot ourselves in the foot over and over and over. Thankfully, the defense saved our bacon, and we were still able to get enough points to make a pretty convincing shutout.
It was a pretty convincing shutout. And then Rodgers had 2 sacks where literally the guy came on the blind side, never saw him coming.
Oh.
And then the one actually caused the fumble. So I have to wonder, like, was Aaron just not thinking to look that way? Or because looking at the coach's cam, it looked like he had a lot of time before the blind side was coming, and that if he would have just glanced, it's almost like when you cross the street, right? Look left, look right, look left again. So I know you have your first scan of receiver that you're looking for, but I think you just got to glance left really quickly just to make sure nobody's coming up from behind you.
Yeah, that's kind of on Aaron. Obviously, it's on the offensive line for letting the guy through, but really, those guys came out of nowhere and could have caused just even more damage to AR-12 than what we've got. So those were sad to see, but I'm glad that he did not seem to get any worse. In fact, he was moving around with that brace relatively well compared to last week.
Yeah, he was doing a pretty good job getting out there, getting out of the pocket, rolling where he needed to roll. Things looked pretty good for the knee, so hopefully he's not too sore and he practices again on Thursday.
Yeah, just a few more games, and then it's bye week.
Because this one's a big one, because this is a NFC division rival. Mm-hmm. So this one has to be a win.
Absolutely, even though it's on the road. But we'll get to that.
You know, and the Bills are obviously having a frustrating season, so they were getting a little punchy and a little chippy with everybody out there. So it is what it is. But, you know, at the end of the day, we need to be in control of ourselves. Jari Alexander got away with a little push when he knocked down the quarterback there. And then, of course, you had Martinez taking off his helmet to get the flag when it would have actually stopped the drive. So things like that, we just can't be stupid. We got to play fundamentals and keep our heads cool.
Yeah. I mean, the Bills did instigate most of those, but we've learned in the past that it's always the person that retaliates that seems to get caught. And of course,
which is 100%. Yeah, 100% true in this case, because I don't know if you saw the guy that shoved Blake Martinez to the ground.
Yes. I was yelling at the TV over my breakfast pizza. Went to a different place this week. Oh, this breakfast pizza with scrambled eggs, bacon, and sausage. It was good stuff, but I don't know.
Is it eggs, bacon, and sausage on the pizza?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
But they just call that like a torta or something?
It was almost like an omelet just rolled out, but either way, it was really tasty. Meanwhile, back on the field. Yeah, I didn't know if the Bills were getting extra chippy because they've had such a frustrating season, or were they riding high over demolishing the Purple Freaks last week that they thought they could bully us around as well.
Yeah, no can do. Packers are awesome.
There you go. You heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. Go Pack, go.
All right, let's look at the injury report. What are the Packers looking like this week, Wayne?
That injury report is growing to epic proportions. Randall Cobb is sidelined with a hamstring injury. He's kind of week to week. I would not be surprised if we see him. Geronimo, concussion protocol. So we don't know yet what's going to happen there. That was very sad to see. McCray with the shoulder, he's week to week. And then, of course, Kevin King's groin is still questionable, unlikely to play. And Aaron Rodgers, likely to play. And we know all about his situation.
Yeah, everybody else is pretty much straightforward. We didn't actually talk about Tramon Williams. You saw Tramon Williams back there returning punts. I thought that was an interesting twist.
I never know who's going to be back there getting kickoffs and punts anymore. But that was nice to see. The Lions have a few injuries themselves. TJ Lang, there's a familiar name for you. He's got a concussion. He's week to week. I would not be surprised if he clears the protocol, if he's able to play against his old Green Bay Packers, where he should still be.
Right. And Quandre Diggs is also sidelined with a hand injury. He's week to week. And then, of course, Jared Davis also questionable with a knee injury. So status uncertain there for Gerard Davis. So most of the key players will be in this game. Obviously, Kerryon will be there. We'll have the usuals, Golden Tate and company. So we'll have to keep an eye on all of them as we move ahead into the Lions. But before we get to them, we have your awesome G-Force feedback, as always. Thank you so much for calling in after the game or even the day after the game to submit your thoughts at 920-3PACK-GO, or, of course, on our website at packersfanpodcast.com/feedback, and all kinds of great ways that you can get in stuff to us you can find on that website in particular. So with that, let's go to our first caller this week, who is also a first-time caller in Mark.
Hey, this is Mark calling, a first-time caller. It's all positive today. It was a great win for Green Bay. Their defense was outstanding. I understand it was a rookie quarterback. They still did the job. 3 sacks. Kyle Fackrell, 3 sacks, 7 sacks for the defense. A buddy of mine were just talking about how Fackrell might be the worst linebacker the Packers ever had, so we were wrong. Good job. We were worried about LaShawn McCoy maybe pulling an Adrian Peterson and being resurrected, but they did a nice job stopping the running game too. So great job to Mike Pettin. I mean, he was taking a lot of heat. They were saying bring Dom Capers back, but it took a little time, but I think their defense is shaping up. Geronimo Allison, he's kind of taking it to the next level now. He's a very effective receiver, and you can tell Rodgers really trusts him. And our running game, this just in, Aaron Jones is an up-and-coming star, and he's complemented now by Williams and Montgomery. So when we have a running game, you know, Aaron Rodgers' play action passes will just be deadly. So, great win. Next week, tough game, divisional game with the Lions. Let's go get them and get our record to 3-1-1 heading into the bye week. Thanks, guys.
Thanks so much, Mark. I just wanted to be clear, first and foremost here. This very podcast, did I not say last season that Aaron Jones is a suitable replacement for Eddie Lacy? We could get rid of Eddie Lacy. Aaron Jones should be the starter. So he's not up and coming. He was already there. The coaches just haven't seen it yet. So now the coaches are seeing it, what we already saw last season. So that's why you get your news first and foremost from the Packers Fan Podcast. Just want to put that out there. The run defense, I think Mark is right on. The run defense really stepped up the game this week. I know I was kind of picking on them ever since the preseason. That was probably our biggest hole. And it was nice to see those middle linebackers just coming up and filling up the gaps like they should. Oren Burks actually showing up this week.
Yeah, it was so good to see, and I think I read somewhere that Mike Pettin really challenged the defense to step it up this week, and they did. So let's see what we can do against a familiar foe in the Lions this week. I wouldn't mind seeing a repeat performance. I wouldn't mind seeing back-to-back shutouts. I'm just saying.
I would prefer the back-to-back shutouts over watching another Hail Mary to win the game.
Heart attack medication, you're waiting on that refill. It's too soon to be filled. So with that, let me ask the callers at 920-3-PACK-GO if I can get a Go Pack Go.
Go Pack Go. Go Pack Go. This is Andre at LA. What a win today. Great, phenomenal performance by the defense. Shutout. First time in as long as I can remember. There's a lot of things I want to talk about today. We got 6 sacks and no flags on those sacks. I was very happy with that. The offense looked somewhat really well. Aaron Rodgers looks to be moving a lot better. Maybe the knee is healing up, or maybe he's getting a little bit more comfortable with the knee brace. I was very happy what I saw with the running backs, but I don't understand why Mike McCarthy doesn't stick with them. Again, Aaron Jones had another really good game, 11 runs for 65 yards, but only 11 carries? I mean, why only 11 times? He's averaging like 6.7 yards a carry. My math is probably off. But why don't we stick with the run more? I mean, I just don't understand what Mike McCarthy has against the run. Aaron Rodgers is on a bum knee. We're up the whole game, and he's throwing the ball 40 times. It doesn't make sense to me. The receivers, I don't know if they're still not completely in sync with Rodgers, but they seem to be improving. There were still more drops than I prefer, but I'd love to hear what you guys think on the podcast. Big fan. Green and gold till I'm dead and gold. I'm very happy for the win. Andre in LA.
Andre, thank you so very much for giving us a call yet again. Very well said. Why are we not running the ball more? But I have a feeling that they can't ignore it much longer.
I'll correct Andre. It's 5.909090909 repeating yards per carry that he had in this game. But yes, he did have over 6 yards a carry in the last 2 games combined. So yes. Why aren't we running Aaron Jones, people? Come on. I know that we have a plethora of backs back there. And yes, Williams was able to run the ball well. Ty, I'm still not sold that he's a running back. I think he's still more of a pass blocking, then duck out and catch a short pass receiver, like on that big rumble that he had down the sidelines. But I think if you're going to do running back by committee, just split it between Williams and Jones so Jones gets more touches. Because if we're talking, 25 touches for the running backs, then it should be split at least 20 Jones and 5 for Williams.
Yeah, all 3 of our running backs, if you include Ty Montgomery, they're all so different and can be utilized in so many ways. But I think it's pretty much unanimous. Aaron Jones has to be the number 1 guy carrying the rock. Do you think that the Packers try so hard and are so known for being AR-12 Hail Marys and long bombs and bullet passes and all of that, that we're afraid to get away from what's made Aaron Rodgers and the Packers famous lately?
Yeah, it's a really good question, Wayne. I have no idea, because what I see is I see 2 very capable running backs, one of which that is a great blocker in Williams, that I say it again, 2 back sets. You could split them out wide, left and right. Then you can run left. You can run right. You can have one block for the other on a drag pull. You could do power sweep. You can do all kinds of stuff, which sets up the play action pass, which we actually saw in effect a few times in this game against the Bills. If they can just get the timing down and the pacing right for the receivers, and the receivers obviously catch the ball, then the play action pass is something that should be our friend this year because of the running game being in existence finally. We need to do that more often. We need to stick with the run, and of course, obviously run the clock out, but not be too conservative, which I think is probably where Aaron's comments from the press conference were kind of leaning, is that maybe the fourth quarter we were starting to get into that rest on our laurels a little bit too much.
Hate
which
the
I know
prevent defense.
McCarthy tends to do, both on the defensive side and on the offensive side, if he's got a lead of more than 2 scores.
We need a lead of 5 scores. I'm just saying.
Yes.
So, Andre, Mark, thank you guys for your calls. We want to hear from you next week after the victory over the Lions. Give us a call at 920-3PACK-GO. And then on Monday, be ready for our Monday poll on Twitter and in our Packers Fan Podcast community Facebook group. This week, just wanted to get the pulse of the fans and find out what was your favorite phase of the Packers game in our shutout victory over the Bills. And special teams only got 3% of the vote, as did the offense. When was the last time the Packers won a game and the offense only got 3% of the vote?
That's pretty amazing. That should be telling about what the storyline should be this week, and that is the fact that the defense put up a really good effort in all 4 quarters of the game this week.
Yes.
Again, it is the Bills. It is the Bills. So let's see how they do next week, and then we'll see how they do against the Rams. And because there's a team in the middle there before the bye that we don't have to care about.
Yeah, the defense was so strong that I split them up because I wanted to find out how people felt about the pass defense as well as the pass rushing defense. So 35% of the voters said the pass defense was their favorite part of the game, and 59% of you guys voted and said the rushing defense. Heading in there because getting sacks without flags, that's special. And they were pretty much harassing that poor rookie quarterback all day.
But see, I think that's where people are confused, because if you're sacking the quarterback, as we were dictated to us by NFL football operations and the rule about what a passing posture is. So if you're sacking the quarterback, he is in a passing posture, not in a rushing posture. Therefore, the pass defense really is what I think is the big key of the game here, with the 7 sacks this week and the pressure that they put on him constantly. So yes, the rushing defense stood up and made better plays than what they've played in the past. But I think the pass rush is actually what was able to help us win this game and get those turnovers for the interceptions.
And in the Facebook group, we did get a write-in vote for just the entire defense. Let's keep it as one unit, and that did get quite a few votes. We also got a comment after the poll. Peter says, had to say the whole defense. Special teams set us up, but the D kept them out. Thought we rushed them well and covered well.
Janelle also added that I haven't smiled that much when the defense was on the field in a long time.
Word.
For once, I can say they did amazing. Hopefully that's going to be a recurring thing and not just because the Bills aren't a good team. P.S. Yes, I know they beat the Vikings, but I'm chalking that up to a hilarious, maybe karma-related, since we should have beat them in Week 2 fluke.
Oh, that's a good point, Janelle. You never know what shenanigans are happening in the world of karma when it comes to NFL football and people that wear purple uniforms with horns on their head. You just never know. Also got some feedback via email. We heard from Caleb. Hey, Wayne and Troy, Caleb Fisher, Larna LaPointe, and Mary Herkmans. And we wanted to say that the Green Bay Packers are starting to look like the old Packers. It was very exciting to watch Aaron Rodgers play once again. Now on to Detroit to play the Lions. I can't wait to see what happens next. But no matter what, we will never stop cheering for our Green Bay Packers. Go, Pack, go, and bleed green and gold till dead and cold. Thanks, Caleb and Lorna and Mary.
Good to hear from you guys, as well as Steven checking in once again from Palos Park. For the first time since Week 1, the Packers win and do it without their defense giving up any points. And since the Bears game was on Fox, CBS could have aired the Packers and Bills game in Chicago instead of this one or the other one. And I get it. I've been complaining about that myself too, Steven. I wish they would have had the Packers game on. But unfortunately, the rules do state that if Chicago is at home and they do have the noon game, then of course the CBS can't carry the other game. So the one I'm really more bitter about is when the Bears play at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and no game is on at noon, because I should be able to watch something. Even if you have to give me stupid Vikings, at least I can watch football at noon. Come on, people. But it looks like the Packers should hopefully have an easy win over the Lions next week. I know this is getting off the subject a bit, Wayne and Troy, but are you sad to see the regular season of baseball in Major League come to an end?
Nope.
I'm sure that Wayne Henderson watched the game from a restaurant out there in California, but did Troy find a restaurant to watch the game at too, so they can both share their thoughts about the game? I actually watched, where did I watch it? I watched it at a restaurant for the first half, and then I watched the second half on tape delay. on NFL Game Pass.
There you go.
And yes, I am excited that the Major League Baseball season has come to an end, although I won't know for sure if my season has come to an end for about another hour or so as we're recording this podcast, since the Cubs are playing in the wild card game after losing to the Milwaukee Brewers, which Packers fans would obviously probably boo me. But remember, I did grow up in Milwaukee, so I was a Milwaukee Brewers fan in the American League and a Chicago Cubs fan of the National League. So when I went to school in Minnesota, I then said, okay, well, I'm going to probably be up here the rest of my life. So I became a Twins fan when the Brewers switched over to the National League. So I became a Twins and Cubs fan. So yes, I was a little bit disappointed on Monday that the Brewers ended up beating the Cubs. But at the same time, I'm happy that they got an NL Central Division title for the first time in a while. So go Brewers, go Cubs, and hopefully we can meet again in the divisional series.
And I'm happy that all that time you spent in Minnesota, nobody was successful in turning you into a Vikings fan, because that would have been terrible. And although I'm happy that the baseball season is pretty much over, I am happy for the Brewers. I'm not familiar with very many teams. I don't follow the ones here in California. But, Troy, when you drove me all the way from Chicago up to Green Bay a couple of times, that Brewer Stadium looks nice from the outside anyway. Nice.
It's a great place to watch a baseball game. Really well done. All right, well, we had some comments over in the Facebook community group as well at packerscommunity.com. Peter said, well, that was a fantastic win. That was on so many positives from that game compared to the last few. Defense was just phenomenal. I hope this is what we can start to expect from now on, and wasn't just down to the Bills being poor. By far the best player on the D was the ref. I mean, how many sacks did they let us have? I see what you did there. The offense just did enough. Rodgers missed throws, and again, people dropped when he did. Some odd play calls like running the ball rather than throwing on 3rd and long. I was thinking that same thing, Peter. Even if it was dropped, the result was a punt. But my feeling is that this is more down to the fact that Rodgers hasn't been practicing much, so we can only get better. Special teams, well, we have the young punter put us in position, and the D did the job. Could have almost had 2 safeties this week. Fine game all around, and some hope for going forward. Go Pack Go from Peter Allison.
Excellent. Thank you so very much, Peter. Good to hear from you, and those are great points. And yes, running the ball on 3rd and long, yeah, I just don't know.
Well, we know because that is a McCarthy staple.
It still causes us to scratch our heads.
All these years later.
I can tell you what, if Vince Lombardi was on the sidelines watching the game, he would have definitely have said, what the hell's going on out there? Where's the Packers sweep I invented? What is happening?
That is right.
Oh, check out even more of the great conversations happening in our Facebook group at packerscommunity.com. Great discussions like more thoughts about the shutout game, press conference video links. We're going to talk about one in a bit, and more green and gold goodness, all at packerscommunity.com.
Well, what else can you say about Packer great Willie Wood, good old number 24? The fact that Willie played for the team that signed him for his entire stellar career was a bonus for the Green Bay community. Speaking of stellar support comes from Bryant. That's right. He's supporting the Packers Fan Podcast at our Patreon account. That's packersfanpodcast.com/support. And at the Willie Wood $24 a month level, Bryant is obviously going to get his t-shirt, and which he already received. And hopefully soon you'll hear Bryant's voice closing out the podcast as we still try to work on getting him to record his Go Pack Go. So thank you so much, Bryant, for sponsoring at the $24 a month level.
And no matter which uniform AR-12 wears, he's one of the greats, as are the Texas-only Green Bay Packers Fanatics Facebook group with their monthly $12 a month Aaron Rodgers support level. You'll hopefully be hearing their Go Pack Go soon. We're still trying to work it out, but in the meantime, Troy will carry on in their honor. And thank you to everybody in the Texas-only Green Bay Packers Fanatics Facebook group for supporting your Packers Fan Podcast.
Carry on. I see what you did there. Supporting us at the $4 Brett Favre monthly level, the good old gunslinger himself. We have gunslinging dedicating all the way back to Packer backer Randy Westgame of Wausau. And, of course, Jeff Summerfield coming in at the $4 level. Thank you guys so much.
And at the Curly Lambeau $1 a month support, Velvet Eau Claire, thank you. Aaron Peterson from the Hollywood Outsider, thank you. and Hank Davis from the TPE network of podcasts and a recent Podcast Awards winner. Thank you.
Yes, thank you too. You can help it make this podcast so spectacular. Hopefully getting to live call-in shows after the game on Sundays. We got to get to that $500 a month mark in order to make that happen. So every dollar counts. So if you find value in this podcast, make sure you go to PackersFanPodcast.com/support. Give $1, give $4, whatever you feel is appropriate for whatever fun you have with the show each and every week. Super appreciate it. Thanks again to Aaron, Hank, the Texas-only Green Bay Packers fanatics, Bryant, Randy, Jeff, and Velvet for their awesome support of the show.
All right, Troy, do we dare talk about it?
Well, shots have been fired, according to Hank Davis, because Aaron Rodgers had words. He had words, and not many of them, because his press conference was very one-note and one-word answers, and he seemed to be firing missiles at the direction of head coach Mike McCarthy. Now, I don't know what the situation was. I know there was some jawing probably on the sidelines as the game went on, and he was talking about how definitely the tight ends need to get involved in this game plan more. We have two great tight ends that we brought in for this season. Did you see what Jared Cook did, by the way? Oh my gosh, not to change subjects, but Jared Cook put up a monster game for the Raiders this past Sunday. Why did we get rid of that guy?
Don't know.
But so Jimmy Graham getting his first NFL touchdown in a Green Bay Packers uniform was great, but he should have like 100 by now. That was the whole idea about bringing him in. So Aaron's pissed that Jimmy Graham's not part of the game plan. He's pissed that Tay, as he calls him, Devontae Adams, he's not in the game plan and should have been in the game plan more, that we should have had 600 yards and like 1,000 points. I mean, just go watch the press conference. It is not the same press conference we saw the last 3 weeks. So something was definitely afoot there. And I don't know if he was just frustrated in his own play, if he was frustrated in Allison dropping 3 balls, just a lot of weird stuff going on there. So I'm curious to see what comes into the game plan and in the works. My biggest question is, if we were still awesomely stellar in that second half against the Bears with the hurry-up offense, why haven't we started out the game with the hurry-up offense? That's what we did back in 2011, 2012 when Joe Philbin was the coordinator. Let's bring that back and get like 5 points on the board or 7 points on the board in 5 minutes like we used to do back in 2011, 2012.
Amen to that, because when I see teams do the hurry-up offense like the Chiefs were doing last night and having it be so effective, I'm thinking the Packers used to do that. And we will link to the press conference article and video that's there as well at PackersFanPodcast.com/163. And like Hank Davis said, shots fired. He's clearly firing shots at some coach or coordinator. When a quarterback mentions execution, he's talking about players. But when he says game plan,
that's all he said. Game plan.
Andy Arias also said, seems like he's annoyed by the play calling. The quote unquote flow comment is a direct shot at Mike McCarthy. Honestly, though, some of the blame can be put on Rodgers. I hope they run Jones more. Hey, I see a theme here, Troy.
I do too. Janelle Herron also said that this interview weirded me out. But yeah, I'd say he was taking shots at someone with those comments. I mean, it was a 22-0 win. I mean, we put up 400 yards of offense.
I know.
I did watch the game back, and I mean, yeah, other than getting it in the red zone, which we could have done a few times had the drives not stalled out from a drop pass or a sack or a fumble or whatever happened. I mean, there was definitely some challenges to the offensive game scheme, but I didn't see anything bad with maybe the plan. Sure, you probably should have tested the cornerbacks a little bit more with Tay and Allison because of the way those people are stacking up and how the Bills defense looked on tape. But sure, I mean, you can say what you want. I mean, Rodgers is a competitive person, and Rodgers definitely wants to compete at a very high level. So for him, a win of this kind isn't satisfying enough unless he feels like they demolished the team. He's more of the Bill Belichick mindset than he is of the Mike McCarthy, a win and get out of here kind of thing.
Very true. Very true. Here's hoping for a much happier and maybe even snarky Aaron Rodgers post-game press conferences coming week. Because I like some of the ones like back, it was about 5 or 6 years ago when we dismantled the Vikings, and after the game, he's sitting there with a purple crushed soda, just taking little sips of just going after the purple.
Those were the days. Yeah, in case you're wondering how, lackluster the offense was, the Packers did convert 11 of 19 third downs for 57.9%. And with the 11 conversions, it's the most by Green Bay since October 27th of 2013.
Whoa.
So, yeah. Granted, it's a lot of third downs at the beginning, so down and distance might have been an issue that we have to take a look at as well, since we're not supposed to be there if Aaron Jones is running the football, because we never get to third down. Just saying. Right. Green Bay also posted a season-high 141 rushing yards on just 32 carries, which is a 4.4 yard average. Running back Aaron Jones's 30-yard run in the first quarter was the second longest carry of his career, behind only his 46-yard touchdown run versus New Orleans on October 22nd of 2017. He did finish with a team-high 65 yards, 11 carries on that 5.99090 average. And running back Ty Montgomery's 43-yard reception in the first quarter was the longest catch of his career, surpassing his previous long of 31 yards against St. Louis back in 2015. So all in all, offense was pretty decent too in this game.
Very decent, and those are some great stats. But I still think if there hadn't been so many drops in low and high passes, we would have won 49-0, maybe even more. But
yeah, it should have been a lot higher on the scoreboard, that's for sure.
But it's a win, and Aaron Rodgers didn't get hurt worse than he already was. So that's a win-win.
Oh, but then we have to talk about fun with flags, Wayne. Fun with flags.
Sheldon Lee Cooper, how are you? Oh, he couldn't make it? Okay, me and Troy will handle this.
We will put links up to some of the probably more interesting tweets that we had regarding the flag situation. So for those that aren't familiar with what was going on at Lambeau Field, the Wisconsin Badgers UW Marching Band was on the field for the national anthem. And of course, with all of the kneel, don't kneel controversy, none of the broadcasters this year are broadcasting the national anthem. So the television viewing audience didn't get to see what happened, which was the Badgers basically taking up the end zone through about the 40-yard line, with the, of course, conductor and the drum major and all that standing about the 50, which leaves the entire other half of the field reserved for whatever flag they're going to display. And what the Packers decided to march out was a sideline to sideline, goal line to about the 35-yard line banner. Not a flag, but a banner, as they call it.
I had no idea what I was watching.
And this banner, I guess maybe the Kansas City Chiefs are going to rough up some people because Missouri called and was upset that we took the state seal off the Missouri flag. Or maybe it was a really long portrait mode for Pinterest for France.
Oh, boy.
To let them know what was going on. Or we were trying to bring back the Baltic states of Yugoslavia and all those things because that's the only closest flag I could find. Basically, it was a red, white, and blue flag. Red on the left, white in the middle, blue on the right if you're looking from the north end zone to the south end zone. And in the blue, they decided to put 27 stars. So I was confused. I was like, I didn't realize there were only 27 countries. Maybe there's 27 states in France. Maybe that's what they're trying to get to. I have no idea.
Maybe there's 27 states that have NFL football teams.
And I swear I've seen this banner before when I've been up in Green Bay, and it wasn't such a big deal. But this just blew up all over social media this week. It was crazy. I mean, just crazy. We had comments that were made, such as apparently there are 27 states in France. I just said that one. And then, of course, this one I thought was hysterical. I mean, I just rolled all the way around. It's like, this isn't the World Cup. What kind of crap is that? Heck, I think I would have to take a knee on this one. Oh, snap.
Oh, no, he didn't.
So, yeah. What country are you trying to represent? Lambeau officials did come out and say that they will no longer do the banners in these situations going forward.
Weird. What a weird season. And it's only 4 weeks old so far.
Yeah, so we'll have links to all of those up at the show notes for PackersFanPodcast.com/163. Take a look at the comments, take a look at the pictures, and you can scratch your head with the rest of us.
Please do.
All right, let's go around the NFC North real quick. The Lions, Golden Tate still impresses in the silver and blue, even after only playing 78% of the snaps this week. That is about it for the Lions. Moving on.
But you say silver and blue. Did you see their throwback jerseys they were wearing this week against Dallas?
Was that like gray, dirty? I don't know.
It was like dirty laundry, gray head to toe, except for the helmet. It looked bad.
They were like woven from the lint that comes out of your dryer.
So hard times.
I mean, you do have your first 100-yard rusher in forever last week with Carry On, and then you have him only on the field 37% of the time behind Theo Riddick. I mean, hey, even Packers fans are scratching their heads at that one.
And we know wacky run games.
We sure do. Now the Bears, to quote Lombardi again, what the hell's going on out there? Did Ryan Fitzpatrick know his time was up at the Buccaneers and send all the Fitz magic to make Mitch magic?
Oh, boy.
Well, the defense is sick, and if Magic Mitch has finally woken up, then I would be more concerned about the Bears this season than the Vikings in the NFC North.
I don't think the Bears are going to have a performance like that again this season. Something about the Buccaneers, they were riding so high, and they crashed so hard. They could be a worse team than the Bills.
Very well could be. And then Fitzpatrick obviously benched now because of that, because Winston will be coming back in. Then the Vikings, comes as no surprise that Thielen and Diggs, with a good quarterback throwing to them, would do amazing things. However, by the time we see Kirk Cousins again, he will be on the IR for not having a throwing arm left. The offensive line still is the Minnesota weak point since the running game was non-existent against the Rams, and the Vikings secondary is really not up to par and should be easy for the Pack to carve up when we meet them again later in the season. I mean, Xavier Rhodes looked like he was standing in molasses next to Cooks during that game against the Rams this week.
Yeah, that Rams-Vikings game is definitely got a lot of tape, so to speak, that the Packers can watch on how to play against Minnesota, but also some scary things we need to watch about the Rams for when we play them later this month.
For sure. More details and information, of course, check out the show notes again at PackersFanPodcast.com/163. With that, we'll go more deep into the Lions and our keys to the game. Number one, we need to shut down Golden Tate. Even though Galladay is the clear number one receiver, he's not getting the receptions. And even though Tate is on my fantasy team, I do suggest shutting him down to focus on the other receivers. We need to also plug the running lanes. We did a great job this week. Let's keep that going, because if they decide to go with Carry On, he is a crafty one like Aaron Jones. So make sure we plug the gaps and wrap up like we should, and that should shut down that part and make them one-dimensional. And then number three, I don't know if anybody can guess what I'm going to say for number three.
I think we are picking up what you're sending our way.
Aaron Jones. Play Aaron Jones all day long. The defense for Detroit is so porous, I wouldn't even strain noodles through it.
Oh my!
Because the noodles would go right down the drain. It is that wide open.
Blech.
So yes, we need to run the ball, and we need to run it very often this week against the Lions.
Please, 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 Green Bay Packers. And of all the games so far this season, this is the one that's on regular TV, and I finally get to see one without going out for breakfast.
Well, while you give them the dope sheet information this week, Wayne, I will see if I will be staying home as well.
Okay. The official Packers dope sheet for Week 5, Packers at Lions, is out now, and we'll link to it at PackersFanPodcast.com/163. Basically, the 2-1-1 Green Bay Packers are on the road indoors to play the 1-3 Lions in Detroit. The Packers are 8-4 at Detroit under head coach Mike McCarthy, including wins in 2 of the last 3 games. This is the Packers' earliest visit to Ford Field since playing at Detroit Week 3 of 2014. And of course, this is a huge rivalry. It actually kicked off, so to speak, in 1930 at City Stadium in Green Bay, which was a 47-13 Packers win. Can I get a Go Pack Go?
Go Pack Go. And I've been to City Stadium.
Beautiful thing. 2 seasons later, the teams began a yearly series, and Sunday marks meeting number 178 in the all-time series, including playoffs. The Packers lead the regular season series 98-70 with 7 ties, again with the ties, and have won both postseason contests the two have played. So basically, we have smacked those kitties 100 times so far, Troy.
Meow.
No other team in the NFL has beaten another team 100 times except for us beating the Lions. And notable connections, Green Bay tight end Robert Tonyan signed with Detroit as an undrafted free agent back in 2017 and spent his first offseason with the Lions. And Lions guard TJ Lang, which should still be a Packer, originally entered the NFL as a fourth-round pick of the Packers in 2009, spent 8 seasons in Green Bay, and was a member of the Packers' Super Bowl winning squad. The full official Packers dope sheet for this game is at PackersFanPodcast.com/163, because with a franchise and a rivalry that goes back this far, there's a lot to dig into.
There certainly is. There certainly is.
Now, which one of us called for the shutout last week?
Neither of us called for the shutout. I called for an 11-point victory. You called for a 10-point victory. That means you had the better point margin, so you get to go first.
Oh, why not? This time we're playing the Lions. I predict we're going to win the game. Packers 30, Lions 19, that very ominous Stephen King number 19, and the Packers formed in 1919. So that's all the points the Lions are going to get. Go, Pack, go.
Go, Pack, go indeed. I'm going to go a little bit more on the Packers and Lions than you. I'm going to say Packers 33, Lions 20.
That's another victory. I'll take it, Troy. What kind of weather can we expect inside of Ford Field this week?
Well, this is going to be the coldest game in October inside of a dome on artificial turf north of the 45th meridian. It's going to be great. It's inside.
As long as the electricity and the heater or air conditioner stays on.
This is true. This is true. So it's game week. It's Lions. It's coming up on Sunday. And yes, it will be on TV here in the 312 of Chicago.
Sweet. We all get to see the Packers beat the Lions. Yeah, yeah.
Awesome stuff.
I hope everybody around the country gets to see this game as well.
I do too. I do too. With that, we'll say adieu for another week. The Unofficial Packers Fan Podcast is not affiliated with the NFL or the Green Bay Packers. However, this season would be a great one for that to happen. So just let them know that they can contact us at media@PackersFanPodcast.com.
And follow us on Twitter at PackersFanPod. Also follow my other account, my personal account on Twitter. I'm at Wayne Henderson. And if you're a fan of Doctor Who, which returns this weekend as well, I've got the Don't Blink podcast at Don'tBlinkPodcast.com.
And me, I'm at Troy Heinritz, going to watch Doctor Who this weekend and listen to the Don't Blink podcast at Don'tBlinkPodcast.com. But I will also be chatting in the Packers Fan Podcast community. That's at PackersFanPodcast.com/community or PackersCommunity.com. All kinds of ways to get there. You can even just search for Packers Fan Podcast on Facebook and join in on the conversations.
And our favorite part of the show each week is your feedback. So go to PackersFanPodcast.com/feedback to get in your thoughts and let your voice be heard and be part of the show next week. Keep those conversations going online because we got a lot of Go Pack Goes coming up this Sunday. And a little over a week from now, we'll have another episode of your Packers Fan Podcast.
Be sure to subscribe in Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify. Download the app for iOS and Android and bring home a W from across the lake. That's right. The G-Force is getting excited. We're going to make those Lions meow instead of roar. As we get hyped, we get excited with a Go Pack Go.